I either start from a drawing, or I might use a previous painting and then work from that previous painting, and then think, oh, I quite like what happened in that painting in this area, and then I'll draw from that. And that's the kind of exercise, let's say, the build-up, the warm-up exercises to performing. I think I didn't do much life drawing because of my evolution. I didn't go to art school originally. I went and did a master's. I did a very limited amount of life drawing. And it wasn't until I went on a residency called Body and Place, where there was life drawing in the landscape, in Alban Manor in 2020, where I was invited to go. That's when everything in my practice kind of was turned upside down, because life drawing became part of my practice. Some of the paintings that you can really see that how life drawing plays a part in the construction of painting, and others, I don't need it, necessarily. And for me, the interesting bit is the play between the two. And when you see, a foot or an arm or appendage or a kind of phallic imagery, or the shape, the form of a body, or a bomb, or the curve of a woman's body. That's what gets me excited sometimes, when I see the life drawing is playing out into the canvas. I want to keep it in that liminal space. However, sometimes the paintings are very figurative, and there's a painting that is going to be in the show upcoming, which is a reclining figure, and you don't know whether this reclining figure is alive or dead. It looks a bit, because of the nature of the way I've drawn the feet, they're kind of gnarled. So I love when I can see a painting where something is suggestive of something else. I like performing, not performing for myself or performing to an audience necessarily, but I do like company in the studio. And I think I feed off that kind of chatter and exchange of ideas. And I like talking about paintings as I'm painting with other young people. As we chat and talk about the kind of painting, I build up to then a performance, and the performance might be momentary. I'm looking a lot all the time and thinking, and then I kind of go for it, and I attack the canvas. And sometimes I can be looking for 2 or 3 hours whilst doing other things, and then I just go for it. And sometimes it can be quite dangerous for all the people around me, in the sense that they're scared that I'm going to do something that's really going to wreck the painting with a big, massive RNF oil bar, and I just, do this enormous swing across the whole painting that I've worked on for months. And I think but I see it as kind of like being at the top of the glacier. You're skiing on a black run, and you just gotta go for it. And I might ruin this painting, but you've got to go for it. And I love those moments of top of the black run. I made this big dramatic mark the other day, this kind of orange mark, and this big white oil bar. I'm going to try and get the level of energy that I've got on this mark to speak to some of the other moving areas, kind of big marks. So the same level of movement across both panels. So I'll kind of find myself looking and saying, okay, what do I need to do here to get them both cohesively speaking to each other? And that it's not too busy either. And it's calming it down and trying to get the dynamics and the scaffolding of the painting right, working well. So I'm going to be going into kind of the finer points of elements of the painting now. And I'm working through these kind of small elements and like building them up and developing them. And then what I'll do is I'll kind of walk back and go, right, I've worked on that. What do I do next? What's kind of overworked? What's underworked? Where do I go? And it's like knitting the space together. And making sure that I haven't overworked it, because that's where you get into the danger zone. And when I'm revisiting paintings, or I'm reworking on paintings, I often use the term, he's gone to God, that's gone to God. So the painting has been put out into the corridor, or it's been put into a stack of paintings, and I've rejected it, and it's gone to God, it's died, it's gone to God. And I think Sometimes when you might be warming up or you think, oh, I could just quickly use that and change a painting, or there was one point where I used to call them cleaning my palette paintings, where at the end of the night when you're exhausted and you just want to save the paint because it's expensive and it's worth those money, you want to use the paint that's on the palette and you put it on an old painting that's gone to God. That can be a bit of magic. And I think that I have often had moments of magic when I've worked for hours on a painting that's on the wall in the studio, and the one that went to God that I reworked quickly from the palette, they become a bit of magic, and you go off. And you're annoyed with yourself that you've spent hours working on trying to figure something else out, and a bit of magic happens. I think I often work in series, and I did a lot of printmaking in the past, and I tended to bring this kind of way of working in series. I've always seemed to, even though I try to work on 1 or 2 paintings at a time only, my natural process is to work on maybe 8 to 10 paintings at any one time. And there always is, in every series, a seed crystal for the next body. And those seed crystals might be a line, it might be using a new color that I haven't used before, or a way of drawing on the surface that I'm not comfortable with, and it's a bit awkward, and I'm like, oh. There was a time, for example, now I'm using a lot of lilac, this kind of purples in this series of paintings. And 2 years ago, I used lilac in just one painting in a series of painting. And I remember thinking, oh, too much lilac. Yet this group of paintings have a lot of lilac. And I think in that series of paintings, that was the seed crystal. I was going to use loads of lilac paint. You know, there's this moment, this seed crystal that's a bit you're not quite comfortable with. And you think, oh, I don't like this, but you leave it because you know it's good. And often the best painting in a group of paintings is a seed crystal painting that's a bit awkward, off kilter, a bit clunky, might not hit the nail on the head, but it's leading you somewhere else. It's a drawing, a kind of figure in landscape drawing, a kind of walking figure in a landscape that I made last year, and I knew that this was the seed crystal for the next body of work that I finished. It was shown last year in October, and I knew that I wanted to make a painting that spoke or riffed on that drawing. Let's say I start constructing a painting, and then my natural instinct is to use various different colors as I'm playing with constructing the painting. I tend to use tetrad principles from Fauvism, where I know that there are complementary colors working at all the time, which can be quite complex to do, but I kind of work it out. And sometimes I use a color wheel to work things out, because when you're working at scale, you have to do that. I am very interested in Fauvism and Bonnard and Les Nabis, and I use a lot of the palette from both those areas. It depends on how the painting is constructed. Then I might go, okay, I'm going to kind of Bonnard this area, or I like the light from this area. I'm going to kind of change it. And I might be thinking about a certain type of painter who, at that time, when I'm painting certain sections of the painting. I don't think you can separate yourself when you're a painter from what you've lived and how you are. And we all deal with ill health and loss and pain. And I think sometimes I've had to deal with these things through my painting. That's not always obvious in the paintings, but if you kind of spend enough time with them, you can read that there is a kind of underbelly at times of grief and dealing with things that we don't necessarily talk about that much. At times when I use color, it can be to kind of work out things, you know what I mean? I don't want to allow myself to go down this pathway of making really dark paintings, that I kind of reference some of that trauma now in my paintings, but using color. And I don't think I necessarily need to talk about it, but I do think that some people who look at my paintings can read it, and they read it very well. So some of the works are kind of much more figurative, and I kind of in the past have negated that figuration, and now I kind of celebrate it. But I don't want all the paintings to be figurative. I often make drawings domestically, so my watercolors and drawings have been made at the kitchen table with my young daughter. But they don't really necessarily come into play in the big paintings, but they come into play domestically, and then they're taken to a studio. I think sometimes, people don't understand that the drawing is more important than the painting. The drawing was more special to the artist than the painting. For the viewer, I want them to experience the same level of playfulness, because I do think the paintings can be quite playful, and there is an element of playful, childlike joy in some of the mark making, and I want there to be that in the sculptures. When I am making the sculptures in a kind of traditional ceramics studio, I do feel sometimes that some of the fellow ceramic makers are like, what's she going to do next? Like, what is she doing now with the glazes? Because I like to use the glazes in a different way that may not be able to meant to be used like that. And I think my lack of knowledge and understanding of traditional ceramics has allowed me to just throw all the balls up into the air and kind of play with the materials in a way, because I don't care. I genuinely don't care if I get it wrong and it explodes in the kiln. I want accidents to happen, like here, I want accidents to happen. And me making sculpture is something that I've read an awful lot about sculpture for years, and I love reading and looking at sculpture. And then in 2019, 2020, I applied for the sculpture residency in London, set for 3 months, where I remove myself from my practice and I go to another studio. It's called Unit 1, and I did a sculpture residency. I went onto this residency and I just read loads for the first few weeks, and then I just started making things out of cardboard and kind of, let's say, art pauvre type of objects with cement and things from skips and all sorts of things. There was a dialogue with my paintings, but I didn't know what it was. And I was about to have an exhibition there with all these different forms I'd made. And then we locked down in COVID. I started making clay objects in the garden, in my garden studio. And that's when I thought, I think when we come out of this, I'm going to make some sculptures from ceramics. And so immediately after lockdown, I signed up at the ceramics studio, where I started experimenting with clay. And I didn't quite know what I was going to do or how it was going to manifest. But then very shortly after I started, I thought, I'm going to start playing with color and these forms and connect it to drawing somehow. But I connected it through creating these kind of little anthropomorphic forms, let's say, that have a conversation with the paintings. My first show, I've kind of developed this body of work in response to this touring show. The title of the new show came from me doing a bit of reading online. I think I was reading about something else. I can't remember what it was. It was an article on painting. And then I came across the word Pentimento, which is about the layering of paintings and reading paintings in terms of conservation and art history, where you can read the previous paintings or the previous lines or layers of paint in a canvas. And Pentimenti is plural, and I really liked it. And I've always used this notion of layering and editing of my paintings and when I talk about how I work. So I thought, I think I'm going to use this, but I'm going to split the word into two. Because the work is very much about layering and revisiting. I've developed 4 or 5 large-scale paintings. The first venue is Uillinn, which is in West Cork, and I've made 4 or 5 large paintings, and then there's be medium paintings, works on paper and sculptures, some on plinths and some are wall sculptures that are going to be suspended on the wall. Because of the nature of the architecture of the space, I am going to have a series of works on paper, a room where I'm going to have some of the works framed, some are going to be pinned to the wall. I have one large diptych that is going to be hung very high on this 10-meter high paint wall. I've been working on this group of paintings and sculptures and works on paper for 18 months now. I have at times found that very frustrating, watching my compadres or peers or other artists have not a rather formulaic, but they have an idea of what the painting is going to look like. They have a construction. They have a fair idea of how it'll work out. I never know. And I could drive myself insane trying to kind of question that, or I can just go with it. I tend to go with it and just hope for the best. And you just hope that your knowledge and understanding of yourself, your abilities as a maker, and your understanding of art history, and the excitement that you have within the making of the painting will get you to the end.